Chapter 13 18 Hours Until Impact. Abigail stood still for a few seconds, glancing at the ground. Suddenly, her face began to scrunch up, and after a few seconds, she began to sob uncontrollably. She walked away towards the ship and sat down, leaning against it. Justin swiftly followed her, sitting down next to her. "Hey, are you okay?" Justin asked. "No," Abigail replied. Her voice was breaking up. She was clearly very distressed. "All the people, the heat, the stress of this job, it's already a lot for me. I can't imagine what it's like for you," Justin continued. "Yes, it's horrible," Abigail lamented. A few seconds passed while Abigail cried. "I like you, Justin. You're easy to get along with. Other people are hard," she added, her voice still heavily broken. "Is it okay if I put my arm around you?" Justin asked. Justin thought Abigail might appreciate some physical touch right now, but he wasn't sure. Justin thought it might be a helpful offer. Abigail nodded in response to Justin's offer. Justin put his arm around Abigail, putting his hand on her far shoulder. Their spacesuits made their arrangement a little awkward, but it was comfortable like this. They sat still for a while. Abigail began to calm down quickly. Justin simply being there with her was a big help in relieving her stress. Eventually, Abigail got up. Justin followed. "I have work to do." "Thank you, Justin," Abigail said, somewhat bluntly. Although she was still upset and had tears rolling down her cheeks, she was now smiling. It seemed like Justin had helped a lot. "Oh, are you sure you're ready to go back? I know we're kind of in a rush and all, but you could sit with me a little longer if you would like," Justin suggested. "No, it's okay. Thank you for offering," she replied sweetly. Justin was a little taken aback by her sudden rush to get back to work. However, he figured that Abigail just wanted a distraction from how she was feeling. Justin didn't take it personally. Abigail just interacted with other people in a different way to others. Justin felt good about being able to help her. He cared about her well-being a lot. Justin got back to work. His primary duty right now was monitoring his team members and ensuring everything ran smoothly. Due to the weather, there were only a few people working at the moment, so his workload was thinned out for the time being. Justin watched the repair crews operate the cherry picker and scissor lifts while he was on shift. They would go up and down, carrying workers on and off of the roof or to a particular height to conduct repairs on the side of the ship. It was satisfying to him seeing the workers use the lifts. All his hard work, the hard work of Derek, and the hard work of the others that helped in moving the lifts had paid off. While Justin was busy working, Derek approached him. Derek had just been looking around the ship. He had a concerned expression on his face. Such a sight was a rarity. "Hey, Justin. I was just taking a look-see around the ship since my curiosity got the better of me. And, to say the least, what I saw was rather concerning. Now, I don't know if it's the heat, the stress, the sleep deprivation, or just plain old stupidity, but I saw some major problems with the Bronto in my quick walkthrough. For a start, some of the essential wiring of the ship has been repaired incorrectly. You know, nothing too big or important though. Only the stuff that controls and powers the life support systems and the engines, fortunately. Another thing I spotted were some serious structural problems with the hull. There are at least 10 different points in the roof that haven't been fixed properly, and those were only the ones I spotted. They'll bust wide open the moment we get high enough into the atmosphere. Now all this has got me a bit worried. For starters, somehow, little old me has managed to spot these boo-boos, but not the 50-strong task forces of people whose job it was to catch these errors and fix them. Another thing that worries me is that fixing these blunders is going to take a hot minute. I'm just hoping it won't put too much of a dent in our schedule. Time is of the essence, after all," Derek proclaimed. Justin felt the anxiety welling up in his body once more, starting from his feet and working its way up, concentrating in its chest. This was terrible. These two problems alone could have the potential to jeopardize the whole plan. John and the council needed to be notified immediately. "Derek, we need to tell someone about this. I think it's best that we talk to John. He can take action from here," Justin suggested. "So, you want me to go talk to the big fella about it?" "Nah, I'd rather not go prodding at a big bear with a stick like that. Seems pretty illogical to me," Derek replied. "Derek, John isn't going to be mad if you tell him about major problems we've encountered while conducting repairs. What he will be mad at you for, however, is not telling him you spotted these issues in the first place," Justin replied. "Yeah, but,
Yeah, good point, Derek stuttered, trying to defend his suggestion before admitting defeat. The real bee's knees of this whole kerfuffle is those were only the few things I spotted on a quick trip through. If I took a propaganda at all these ships and nooks and crannies, I'd dread to think of what my eyes would come across, Derek added. That statement only added to the anxiety inside Justin. He just begged it was a coincidence that Derek happened to walk in and out quickly and by chance come across 2 fatal flaws. Although saying that aloud in his mind didn't give Justin much hope for that possibility. He hoped desperately that once the heat died down and everyone was back, any hidden errors would be picked up on and swiftly fixed. Derek walked off in search of John. Justin followed him. After a while, Derek found him. He was having a discussion with Abigail about something, presumably related to the ship. Derek approached John. Hey, John, how you doing? He began. Derek, what do you want? John snapped back, with hostility in his voice. The memory of yesterday's incident was clearly still lingering within John's mind. So, the brilliant minds of the interstellar frontier made a mistake, or 2, or many, Derek continued. John replied, clearly about to boil over. So help me, Derek. If this is one of your pathetic jokes, Derek cut him off. The hull hasn't been repaired properly. Same with some important wiring. If we don't fix it, we won't even make it to orbit, let alone back to Earth. The little cherry on top of all of this is that we are running out of time to make repairs, Derek stated. John began to untense, and his anger settled before warping into frustration. Damn it, John proclaimed, defeated and frustrated. John looked rather stressed out by this latest development. Who could blame him, really? My apologies for assuming you were here to cause trouble, John continued. John looked like he was beginning to calm down a little after realizing Derek was not here to waste his time. Well then, I will have to work closely with the engineering teams to help resolve this issue. Abigail and I will have to discuss this in depth to see what this means for our schedule. It might involve running a thorough inspection of the ship this evening once everyone is back and the weather has settled down, John said. Yes, Abigail replied. Well then, I would like to see these mistakes personally. Afterwards, I will be having a word with some of our engineering team leaders, John stated. Derek, Abigail, John, and Justin headed into the Bronto. There were a few people around conducting repairs. Since Justin was last inside the ship, the inside looked substantially better. The Bronto looked far more suitable for spaceflight than it did earlier. Justin was relieved by this. However, the mistakes that Derek had pointed out were still playing on his nerves. Now, if you will look to your left, you will witness some rather shoddy workmanship. You may or may not have noticed the welds in the hull. The welds have been made in the incorrect spots, and are in fact not holding anything together at all. They're just useless metal blobs. The moment the ship gets into the vacuum of space, that section of the hull will crumble like the suspension springs in the cars on this damn planet, Derek proclaimed in an upbeat yet condescending tone. I'm no expert on welding or construction, but Derek certainly has a point. It's not something that is very easy to spot without someone pointing it out to you. Another thing, it's easy to get the impression that a welding issue like this would be an easy mistake to catch, John stated. Now, if you look below the titanium grating under our feet, you will notice the large lengths of tubing running through under the ship. Within them was wiring. Some of the tubing is missing, so our fellow workers can access the wires. No biggie there. That's a normal procedure for repairing wiring like this. The problem arises with the wires themselves. As you may very well observe, it's a spaghettified mess. There are wires in here connecting to other wires that shouldn't be connected to. The wires are practically begging for a giant warning, flammable sign right beside them, Derek continued, maintaining his tone from before. The wiring made Justin panic a little. It didn't look like a simple repair. That wiring was essential to running important onboard systems, and it looked like it would take a lot of time to fix. He hoped the electrical group would manage in repairing the most important stuff. Justin figured it would be best to get back to work. There was no point in him standing around here looking at problems that he wasn't in charge of fixing, after all. It would serve to do nothing but worry him more. The problems were now in good hands. Abigail was a very talented engineer, and John was an excellent leader. Not to mention all the other members of the engineering teams who would now be aware. I'm going to get back to work now, Justin stated. That's okay, Justin. I will be in a meeting for the next half an hour or so. I will be available after the meeting if you need to discuss anything with me, unless it's an emergency, of course. Then by all means interrupt me. Derek, you will be joining us to discuss this with the council further. Abigail, I strongly encourage you to come along as well, unless you have something more pressing to attend to, John said. See ya, John, Justin replied. Okay, Abigail replied. Well, beats driving stuff back and forth all day, Derek joked. Chapter 14 16 hours until impact. On Solfilius, it was now a few hours past midday. The planet had cooled down, and it was now safe to work without spacesuits. Slowly, all the workers returned to the ship and began repairs once more. Throughout the rest of the day, Justin's shift was relatively uneventful. He continued to keep the logistics system up and running and helped out with deliveries where he could. The ship was now looking a lot better than it was when Justin, Abigail, and John first found it. The corrosion on its exterior was practically gone now. Most of the exterior hull damage and other damage to the ship's outside had been repaired by now. Of course, a few of these repairs would need to be remade after Derek pointed out some issues with them, but if the workers managed their time right, they would hopefully fix them before it was time to evacuate. Corona slowly crept across the sky, nearing closer to the horizon until the two met. The sky was filled with brilliant reds, oranges, and purples. The sunsets on Solfilius were never ones to disappoint. Justin was under the impression that the planet was an ugly and colourless world when he arrived. While that still held true at day, during the evenings, it was far from the truth. The scorched, dusty surface of the planet had begun to cool off now. The chefs had returned to the utility station outside for the workers and were cooking dinner for everyone. This evening, they were cooking a variety of different foods for the workers. Chefs were extremely important to morale. Being served hot food at the end of a hot, exhausting and stressful day was always greatly appreciated by the workers, including Justin. Justin was now off shift and heading into the workers' rest area. Derek was with him, along with a large group of other workers who just got off shift. Justin spotted John sitting down. He was with Abigail. They appeared to be waiting for Derek and him to sit down with them. Justin headed over towards them. Derek and Justin took a seat at the table Abigail and John were sitting at. Hey guys, Justin greeted them with. Good evening, John responded. Abigail replied with a simple hi. How have you all been holding up? John asked. Better than earlier today, Abigail replied. I've been surviving, Justin replied. Well, about as good as I possibly could be, considering I could be dead by tomorrow, Derek replied, clearly done with everything. Abigail turned pale upon being reminded of this fact. Come on, man, don't say that. I know there's been a lot of bumps in the road, but for the most part, things are looking up for us. Despite all the anxiety, I think we got a damn good chance of getting out of here in time. We have some of the brightest people in the entire universe right here on this planet trying to get us out of here. If the universe really wants us dead, we sure aren't going to let kill us tomorrow, Justin valiantly replied. Yeah, you're right actually, Derek replied. I am confident in the people we have on this planet. We won't die here, but if for whatever reason we fail, we won't have gone down without a fight. And a damn good fight we fought, John replied. Well, I put in all the effort I could. I don't think we will die now, but if we do, at least I will die knowing I gave it my best, Abigail added. The group sat for a minute, marinating on the events of the last 2 days. I would like to commend all of you for your efforts in this mission. Justin, your contributions to the logistics of this whole operation have been invaluable. Abigail, I thank you greatly for coming up with the idea to restore the Bronto. And Derek, I know things have been rocky, but you have contributed significantly too. If you hadn't pointed out those flaws, everyone on this planet would have been in serious trouble, John added. Thank you, John, Justin replied, filled with a sense of pride. Thanks, Abigail responded. It looked like she was tearing up. You're very welcome, Derek replied. Also, Derek, I am sorry about my decision to terminate your position here. I hope you understand my reasoning. The risk you posed to your fellow workers was too high, John stated to Derek. Ah well, I guess that's fair, big fella. I was drunk on the job after all. Can't really blame you for doing your job, I suppose, Derek replied, being understanding of his decision. Justin could see through Derek easily. He had years of practice. He could tell he was upset about losing his job. Justin could only hope he would beat his addiction so he could return to work here once again once the CME was over and the mine had returned to full operation once again. Derek was a brilliant fit for a place like this. Although Derek was a close friend of Justin, He could be rather frustrating at times. His lack of personal responsibility was one of his biggest downfalls. It clearly wasn't Justin it affected too. It took its toll on John, and it most certainly affected Derek's co-workers too. His childhood trauma was the major driver behind this. Derek felt the need to put up this facade in order to protect his inner self. He was a class clown in school, and he never really grew out of that phase as he got older. His trauma, however, shined through. It was easily seen by anyone who knew a thing or two about psychology or trauma, which by this stage in humanity's history was everyone. Derek, there are a range of valuable psychological services that the Australian government can provide to you when you get back to Earth. I suggest you look into them. I am also confident that I can arrange for you to receive some assistance from the NFMC, even if you are not currently employed by them, John suggested. Justin was in agreement with what John said. Almost all countries in the developed world provided free psychological care to its citizens, including Australia, where Derek was from. Back at home, he could get treated for his alcoholism, trauma, and get the help he needed. It had been possible to completely erase addiction in a person for decades now, with the right medication and psychological assistance. A psychologist helped me a lot, Abigail chimed in. Derek sat still and thought. Either he was trying to come up with a witty way to respond, or was genuinely considering seeking professional help. Of course, there was always the possibility of both. He just didn't want to admit he was seeking help, because he wanted to keep up appearances. Therapy, eh? Tell you what, my psycho parents needed some desperately, Derek replied, jokingly. Despite it seeming like Derek was trying to dodge the question, Justin could not agree more. In the limited interactions he had with Derek's parents during his high school years, he learnt a few things. His dad was also an alcoholic, a severe one at that, and his mother was clearly a narcissist. Derek wouldn't have the problems he had today if his parents met his needs, or treated him with any level of respect for that matter. Justin tried to steer the conversation back to him again, while also trying to not pressure him too much. If Derek didn't want to talk, it wouldn't be helpful to Justin to force him to. Your parents have definitely had a long-lasting effect on your mental well-being. I think it's worth considering seeing a psychologist, Justin suggested. Or, I could just... Derek replied, making a drinking motion with his hand at the end of his statement. Justin frowned at Derek in disappointment. Derek was intelligent enough to realise that alcohol was not an ailment to his needs. Justin just hoped that he would take that on board soon. Derek, John said, in a sterner tone than his usual, clearly frustrated with his response. Hey, Derek, if you don't want to talk about this right now, you don't have to. We can switch the subject, Justin replied, trying to be patient. Justin could sense an argument bubbling. Normally Justin and John were patient people. Patience was a very important thing to have when helping people who were mentally ill. However, their patience could only run so thin when they were both exhausted from working and the threat of a CME was looming around the corner. Alcohol only causes more problems if you can't handle your liquor. Sounds like someone's compensating for something. John, if you loosened up a little every once in a while, maybe things around here would run a little smoother, Derek replied, smugly. Justin immediately knew that Derek had struck a nerve with John. Justin glanced over at him. John looked like he was about to explode. A comment like that directed at John would have upset him on a good day, let alone during a stressful time like this. Derek, I tried to offer some helpful advice. I do not appreciate your rude and sarcastic remarks. They were completely unnecessary, John snapped. Abigail flinched at the sound of John yelling. Ooh, too far, Derek replied, clearly regretting his reply to John's advice. Perhaps it is for the best that I sit somewhere else tonight, John said. John stood up and left to go sit somewhere else. Abigail looked quite disturbed by the whole ordeal. The sheer number of people and background noise around here was already too much for her. Hey Abigail, are you okay? Justin asked, concerned. I am okay now, she replied. Derek, if you didn't want to talk about this right now, you could have just told us. You didn't need to insult John like that, Justin said. You're probably right. He seemed pretty pissed, Derek replied. I'm sorry if you felt forced to talk, Justin added. Derek shrugged his shoulders in response and remained silent. Justin could tell by Derek's body language and facial expression that he regretted what he said. He felt bad for insulting him. Suddenly, the call for dinner was made. Justin, Abigail and Derek all got up and made their way over to the serving area, accompanied by a group of people who were sitting around them. Tonight, they were being served pot roast. There were two options, beef or vegetarian. Justin was first. He got a healthy serving of beef pot roast and thanked the chef who served him. Derek got the same as Justin. Abigail didn't like beef, and so she chose the vegetarian option. All three of them sat back down at the table once more. Abigail and Justin sat down in silence and ate their food, awkwardly taking their rebreathers on and off while doing so to put food in their mouths. All three of them were now off shift the next half of the night. After they were finished eating, Justin went off to find a mattress. He got on it and he lied down. He tried his best to get some sleep, but his efforts were once again in vain. Today was quite the day. Justin found himself looking over at today's events. Getting fuel into the Bronto, retreating inside due to the heat, the argument at dinner, Abigail breaking down, moving the cherry picker and scissor lifts. He couldn't wait until tomorrow, but he was simultaneously dreading it. At least it would all be over soon, he thought. Chapter 15. 10 hours until impact. While Justin was trying to get to sleep, someone sat down beside him. Justin opened his eyes. It was Abigail. "I am sorry, did I wake you up?" she asked. "No, it's okay. I was awake," Justin replied. "I can't sleep either," she said back. Abigail began to start fidgeting with her hands. Justin was curious. Was something making her nervous? "Are you okay? Did you need something?" Justin asked. Her fidgeting sped up. She looked down towards the ground. "Can I lie down with you?" she murmured softly. Justin got a little flustered. He thought about it for a second. It would probably help them to get some sleep and to relax a little. "Of course," Justin replied. Abigail's face lit up. Justin smiled in return. Abigail got onto the mattress with Justin. Almost instantly, they fell asleep. Throughout the rest of the night, more repairs were conducted on the ship. From the outside, it was now very difficult to spot any kind of damage or weathering on the ship at all. On the inside, there was still some cleaning up to do. Tools and parts were scattered all over the ship's floor. Spare repair materials and old pieces of the ship that had been replaced needed to be cleaned out. Aside from some cleaning, the inside was nearly fully repaired. The ship's fuel tank was almost full. It was expected to reach 100% just before dawn arrived. Justin felt a blunt thud on his arm. He woke up and opened his eyes. It was Derek. He had given Justin a gentle kick to wake him up. It was dark right now. The gentle glow of the nebula was visible in the night sky. Derek let out a smirk when he saw Justin and Abigail sleeping together. "Hey buckos, wake up. We're on shift," said Derek. It was their final shift. After this, it would be all over, for better or far worse. By this time, Abigail had wrapped her arms around Justin and was fast asleep. It was freezing cold right now, and she probably wanted to keep warm. It was around midnight now. "Oh man, I was fast asleep," Justin replied, drowsily. "No kidding," Derek replied. "Hey Abigail, wake up," Justin said. Abigail awoke. She opened her eyes. She murmured sleepily. "Shift time," said Derek once again. "Oh," she replied. Justin or Abigail was looking forward to more work. They needed to sleep. However, they got up and got to work anyway. The ship wasn't going to prepare for takeoff by itself, after all. The rest of the night was nothing but a blur. Justin helped with the last few deliveries of items, ensuring that they got to the ship in a timely manner. The rest of the night was mostly smooth sailing. More repairs were conducted. People worked, ate, slept, and helped out however they could. As the end of the night approached, the last few repairs were completed. The ship was given a final clean-out for any remaining parts or tools, right as the fuel tank reached maximum capacity. After this, the ship was packed with any supplies that would be needed for the journey ahead. Food, water, medical supplies, and even valuable personal possessions where time allowed. Justin, John, Abigail, and Derek all stood back from the ship to look at their work, along with a few other workers on shift at the time. They were filled with an immense sense of pride by what they had accomplished. Everyone could now finally see the light at the end of this long, arduous tunnel. The only thing remaining now was to conduct a few final checks and to get everyone on board. The ship was ready.